Hey everybody, Spencer here. Just wanted to give a quick little heads up about this week's episode. It's kind of a weird one, so as some of you may know, this weekend we were supposed to be going and attending Naka Kon 2020 here in Kansas. We were going to do a bunch of panels. We were going to have our Atlus panel, some visual novel panels, a lot of talking with everyone. It's going to be really fun. Hopefully get some interviews done. Unfortunately, due to all of the quarantining going around, the convention was postponed, but in a little bit of a weird twist, we were invited to do our Atlus panel for the staff who was already out there. So here is a recording of myself and John, aka Nyarly, doing our Ultimate Atlus 2020 panel with a much smaller crowd. But hey, I figured I would record it anyways and give you guys a podcast just in case. Since most people, even if you were in Kansas, probably did not get a chance to attend the panel, you can see what we talked about. Let me know what you think. It's a much shorter episode, but just wanted to get it out there for all of you guys anyways. Hope you guys are all doing okay. And I will see you back next week for a normal episode of the podcast. Enjoy the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Ultimate Atlus 2020 panel presented by Shin Megami Tensei Network. And I can't tell if this microphone's actually on. Are you guys hearing a microphone or just my voice?
I hear a microphone.
That's fine. I'm very loud, so it doesn't matter. All right, so I am Spencer Presley. I am the Shin Megami Tensei Network for all intents and purposes. My special guest today is John, otherwise known as Nyarly.
Sup?
So his microphone works. That means he's a lot more of a quiet boy than me. So we are big... Oh, I don't need it. I'm loud. So we are big Atlus fanboys and fangirls and fan haters, and we wanted to take this panel as an opportunity to talk about everything Atlus is doing in 2020, starting with Tokyo Mirage Sessions all the way up until the end of the year, which will probably just be 13 Sentinels, but I doubt many people in here are going to be playing that or know about that. So we're going to start off with what has already happened. Who here knows what Tokyo Mirage Sessions is, just in general?
I've heard about it, but I've never played it.
Did you hear about Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem?
That's a no face. So you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that argument
What
here.
about the Persona 5 and Kirito?
Oh, Sword Art Online. That had some quality art going on. So Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore is a game that came out originally 5 years ago on the Wii U, RIP, and in January of this year it got re-released on the Switch. So the Switch port has a bunch of new costumes, has a whole new EX dungeon, and basically a lot of quality of life changes overall. Both of us have played and beat it. John, now that it's kind of been like some time that you've been able to look back on it, how did you feel the release of TMS Encore went?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really like keeping up with sales or anything, but I don't really think it adds enough new content if you already played the Wii U version, but not many people did play that.
That's like a weird criticism of like, oh, like if you played the original, so all five of us are like gonna like look back.
Yeah.
But also, there's not a ton of new content, but also it's been like 5 years, whereas like Royal, 3 years. It's gonna be 3 years between Royal and Persona 5 coming out.
And, I mean, it's not on the Wii U, and I think it's worth $60 to not have to play on the Wii U.
Did you play more docked or portable?
Well, it didn't support portable. Oh,
Yeah,
you mean on the Switch?
Yeah, well, we're not talking about that trash Wii U port anymore.
Okay,
that version's dead.
I played it more in portable mode.
Yeah, same here. I pretty much played it all primarily at work.
For me, that was the biggest thing I didn't like about the Wii U version was that it didn't support the gamepad, which was...
Well, it did technically. If you remember, the Wii U version was just all of your messages and stuff.
Yeah, but like you couldn't play it just on the gamepad.
Which was fine, because like I looking back on the Wii U, just like, did anyone here own a Wii U? It's okay. We're living it up to its own failure.
I'm jealous.
Wait, you owned a Wii U, right?
Yeah, I still have it.
What made you buy a Wii U? Mine was Wind Waker HD came out on my birthday, and I said, you know what? This is going to be the best way to spend $350.
It was Smash, really.
So you waited till what, 2014? No, Smash Wii U was what, 2015?
No, it was 2014.
Oh my God,
but I didn't get it. I didn't get it until 2015 because at first I didn't want to buy it, but then everyone was like, "Oh, you should get a Wii U. It's the best console ever." So then I bought it, and it was a piece of crap, and I wish I hadn't.
What do you have, like 3 games for it?
I think I've got maybe 7 or 8.
How many of them are Star Fox Zero?
0.
Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival?
0. Most of them are actually multi-plats.
Okay. Mass Effect 3 on there and Assassin's Creed 3.
I don't. It's Deus Ex and Black Ops 2.
Oh man,
are
that's
two
a
off
weird
the top
one.
of my head.
I just found this out recently through like a weird trivia video. Did you know Deus Ex Mankind Divided has a Sonic and Knuckles and Knuckles and Knuckles and Knuckles poster in it? Like, not like a kind of a joke. It is actually just the Knuckles and Knuckles poster that Sonic's Twitter page made.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really weird. So, talking about things that aren't Sonic the Hedgehog and Knuckles memes. So, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore, as John was alluding to earlier, started out as a collab project between Intelligent Systems, who makes the Fire Emblem series, and Atlus, who makes the Shin Megami Tensei series. Originally, it was announced back in the day for a Wii U exclusive of the two games crossing over together. Everyone was going to love it. The game was going to be 10 out of 10. We were never going to have a better game after that initial idea. Instead, we got a J-pop idol game, which many people immediately dismissed after its very drastic departure of hardcore, dark strategy RPG to very light, poppy, colorful looking game. I have always I don't know if you guys can tell through having to look at me, I'm a bit of a nerd. I grew up and watched and listened to a lot of J-pop. Were you ever into J-pop at all? I know you're not now.
Well, I mean, I still kind of am. But,
who you listen to?
Well,
I'm gonna be that meme. Like name all girls in AKB48 right now,
okay,
alphabetical order.
Okay, like I listen to a few of them. Like, I mean, I guess I don't really listen to them religiously, but sometimes when I'm studying, I'll have like YouTube autoplay. But most of it is actually just songs from H visual novels.
Why H? You could just say visual novels. You had to let everyone here know they were the porn ones.
Hey, blame YouTube's thing.
The tones are very different. I gotta say, I've played my fair share of all kinds of VNs. Are the soundtracks in H novels going to be that much more different than other visual novels?
No.
Okay. So, porn novels aside, I will say actually, we can kind of get into a bit with censoring, because this has been a bit of a topic we've sort of talked about in the past, because the Japanese version originally for the Wii U for Tokyo Mirage Sessions, the game is all about the idol industry and actually does show different aspects of it, like modeling, booking different gigs like photo shoots, being on commercials, being in TV shows. And one of the big points of contention were oh my god, I always forget this G word. It's like gravoir, like it's not like boudoir, but it's like when you're like kind of like in like wearing like sexy swimsuits, sort of like shoot wear. Not like a boudoir word, be like lingerie. Do you know what word I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name either.
So there's a specific chapter that's all about bikini photography and the original release of the game. And for the Western version, that was changed to cool hip clothing. And I feel like that like really like kind of killed the mood of it, because like imagine like if I told my girlfriend right now, after this panel, she's going to have to get up on stage and wear a bikini for the rest of this panel and do nothing. It'd be like, oh my god, this is very stressful. Like, I'm not used to this. I'm not that kind of person. I'm going to take a lot of pictures. But instead, then the tone is, I want you to come up here, and I'm going to put 3 sweaters on you and a big hoodie. Like, she'd still kill me for making her do that, but it'd be a lot less embarrassing.
I'm going to wear the most ridiculous mid-2000s street clothing I can think of.
All it was missing was, like, Jinko jeans. So, and for whatever reason, Nintendo decided the Switch version was going to worldwide just be the American version and have all the changes from that, which not everyone was very happy about. I know you weren't a big fan of it.
I wasn't. Like, I because the reason they censored it on the Wii U was just because that was at a time when Nintendo was just censoring their games for whatever reason. Yeah,
well, it's because remember, like back at the time, even though Nintendo wasn't like super popular, they were still very like I'm trying to think of the right word. They were just very like rigid in their like censoring, or just like they didn't want like, there weren't like, Nintendo wasn't known like anyone in here who has or knows about like the PlayStation Vita. It's like pretty quickly like a easy joke to make about the Vita is that all it has is a bunch of porn games on it and whatnot. But like no one like makes jokes about that on like being on for the 3DS or the Wii U.
Yeah.
Exactly. The back touchpad has to be used for something. So the funny thing is with it, for whatever reason, when Nintendo got really popular when the Switch released, they just opened up the floodgates and let anything on there. So like there have been actually multiple occurrences now of just digital games having nudity and straight up erotic imagery in these eShop titles.
Yeah. But, like, so you would think if they're going back on their stance about censorship, they would have changed it back for the Switch version. But, they didn't, and they were actually offering refunds to people who already pre-ordered it in Japan because of that.
Which is very rare.
Like, I'm guessing that they wanted to take it out, but because Atlus did the translation, there was, like, some dumb legal binding thing where they couldn't do it.
Well, I have a different hypothesis as why that ended up happening. Because when I beat the game, I looked at the credits. Because normally a lot of these games that get ported to other systems are usually handled by third-party developers and stuff like that. And when I was looking through the credits, what I thought was interesting was John had mentioned the game originally was translated into English by Atlus USA with help of Nintendo in the West, whereas Encore, all of its new translation was handled by Nintendo of Europe.
Yeah.
And the development was all handled in Japan at the original dev team. So it was all the original team still working on this. So my weird hypothesis for this is I think the dev team knows that the censorship changes are not as popular, but I think that they like the costumes more. I think they like the costumes they made more in the newer version than the like swimsuits and bikinis and stuff.
Yeah, probably.
But then it goes back to the thing of like, why not just have like all of them in there?
Well, I mean, why not just keep that? But like, they still kept the other changes, like that wedding dress.
Yes.
Some of the changes to the other costumes.
Yeah, there are other weird censorship ones. There is a wedding dress that originally is very revealing in the top, and they make it sort of look like Mary? What would like the look be of like when it's kind of like it makes all of your skin almost like white, like when it's like a skin tight wedding dress? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so it kind of looks like she's a white bodysuit underneath the wedding dress. So it just kind of makes her whole chest look like she's plastered in white.
And it looks dumb.
It's very weird. It's hard to recommend for that. But I think once you get past the little dumb changes, though, and also I know the story is not like the biggest sell because not everyone is super interested in idol culture. I feel like, though, this game is, like, one of their best, like, gameplay game RPGs, like, ever. Like, for me, like, the loop of, like, leveling up those weapons, like, going into the dungeons, the music of the game in general, like, this is easily, like, especially after replaying everything for Encore, this is, like, top 5, like, my favorite Atlus games ever.
Really?
Yeah, it's, like, it's got a perfect loop. It's not too long, because the thing about, like, really long RPGs, that, like, especially the older you get, I love and appreciate 100-hour RPGs, but it is nice every now and then to just have a game that you can beat over the course of like a month. Like a 30 to 40-hour RPG is kind of nice, and the story is not super heavy. When you beat the game, there's no like loose strings. There's not like an evil bad guy in the corner of like, ho, 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 and wait for the TMS sequel. It's very cut, clean. It just kind of feels like when you watch like a one series long show anime, and it just ends perfectly. That's how I felt about TMS.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's just like a not as good version of Digital Devil Saga.
But then think about it. It's like if you play Digital Devil Saga is like a great PlayStation 2 game. But like that game is so dark and so heavy. Like the tone of that game is really interesting.
I'm not talking about the story. I'm strictly talking about the gameplay.
Well, like let's say like overall loop everything kind of together in terms of, hey, where do you kind of place this in the echelon of Atlus developed games? Like, where does it kind of go for you? Like, for me, like I said, it's like top 5.
For me, it's like top 25.
Like, what's up? Like, what does it by? Is it like by?
It's over. Well, I guess not top 5, more like top 15 or 20-ish.
Give me a game it'd be by, like, in terms of its ranking. Like, for me, I hold it up there with stuff like P2.
For me, Persona 4.
Okay. I get that knowing your ranking for sure. That makes a lot more sense. So yeah, if you guys are interested in Atlus games, and even if you've never checked it out, it goes on sale pretty regularly for like around $50 or so. It's a super easy recommendation if you are interested in it.
What consoles do you play on?
Only on Wii U and Nintendo Switch. So not the most widespread available thing, but it was a Nintendo funded game, so that's kind of why. And if you are a fan of Fire Emblem stuff or Persona and Shin Megami Tensei, there are a lot of cool crossover costumes and a really weird-looking Joker costume. That costume never got less weird to look at. Fun little things to kind of bring up before we go into our next game. This is the only Atlus game that has ever released worldwide, everywhere. Most games usually come out either primarily first in Japan or, in the rare case of stuff like Overclocked, in America first.
Yeah, well, that was a launch title. Trauma Center Second Opinion also released.
That's true. But like for RPGs, that's very rarely happens for us. That was kind of a fun one. And we're going chronologically in terms of things just being released in general. So our next game is a weird one of Persona 5 Scramble, The Phantom Strikers, released last month in Japan and is still, as of this recording, March, 13th? What day is today?
Yeah, 13th.
March
Friday
13th,
the 13th.
2020. Oh, yeah. Talking about Atlus games. Friday the 13th. So this game isn't even announced for a Western release yet, and I cannot get over how weird that is.
Yeah.
Like, we got to just talk about that elephant in the room. Like, if you're Atlus right now, why is this game not announced?
Coronavirus, I guess.
No. What do you mean? No. Like, if that was the case.
Or they're just, Atlus they're just not very fast when it comes to translating.
I think they are scared. I know that we have a very small pool to judge from, but for you guys in here, you guys are aware Persona 5 Royal comes out at the end of the month, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys aware that Persona 5 Scramble came out last month?
I knew of it, but only in Japan.
Mm-hmm. So Persona 5 Scramble, for those of you guys who don't know, is a game developed by Omega Force. They are the Dynasty Warriors team over at Koei Tecmo. So very action-heavy, and I know Dynasty Warrior games get a really bad reputation. But I'm a huge Dynasty Warriors fan. Like our podcast we did last week, I talked for over 3 hours all about just this game, so I definitely need to shut up about it. John, you have the most interesting perspective of you've played the demo. You've come over to my house and actually played the full game for a little bit for it, but you've not actually been able to kind of sink your teeth into it. What was your journey from this game getting announced last year, watching that trailer in November, to now? What's your kind of journey with Scramble been as a very casual fan?
Well, when it was announced, there was just meh. I thought to me it looked just like another Warriors game.
Oh,
with
actually,
Persona 5 skin.
No, we need to go back actually to set the mood, because do you remember everyone thought Persona 5S, because we knew P5S was what it was called.
Yeah, everyone thought it was going to be a Switch port.
Yes, everyone thought Persona 5S was going to be the Switch port, or it was going to be, because I think Scramble might have leaked a week before as well.
No, it was like 12 hours before.
But people thought it might have been a fighting game.
Yeah.
So if you could go back, now that it's out and you've seen a lot, would you rather have P5 on Switch, a Persona 5 arena called Scramble, or actual Phantom Strikers?
I'd rather have actual Phantom Strikers.
Okay.
But when I first heard it was announced, I wasn't impressed. A Warriors game about Persona 5. I just thought, really, Persona 5? But then we got that second trailer where they actually they made it more clear that it was an actual sequel to Persona 5. Mm-hmm. And then I played the demo, and I'm like, wow, this game is a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so Persona 5 Scramble, for you guys who don't know, is the actual full-on sequel storyline continuation of Persona 5, but it is on the PS4 as well as the Switch. Have you decided from comparing both which one you're going to do? Are you going to probably play the PS4 version or the Switch version when it comes out?
I'm going to play the Switch version.
Because you're a plebeian and you like those 30 frames as opposed to those superior 60 frames.
Yeah.
So what kind of is it just because the portable aspect of it, or?
Yeah, that's really it.
I feel like would there be any real difference between the two that would be enough to make you be like, okay, I don't want the Switch version? What would it take in terms of a comparison that would turn you off?
Well, if the Switch version had less, if it maybe didn't have a dungeon or something like that.
Okay, so actually content missing. But considering it's content complete, you're all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Other things to talk about if you guys don't know, even though I've said it's developed by the Omega Force team who do all the Dynasty Warriors games, this is the least Dynasty Warriors game ever. You are still beating up tons and tons of enemies on screen, but you're not just fighting 1,000,001 enemies as Lu Bu's coming at you on a horse. You are adventuring around all over Japan. It's basically like a road trip movie of you guys are going to different spots all over Japan, little social element highlights. There's exploring, there's platforming levels, side-scrolling, and lots of sneaking around. Really, really fun stuff. The game lasted for me, even though it's a spin-off, I think it was 50 hours for me just to beat this whole thing, and that was with a lot of me skipping through the story because I'm competent-ish enough in Japanese, but there's no point in me going through it when I know it's going to come out later in English. But yeah, it did really well in Japan. Like I think what was its first week? It was right behind, was it Persona Q in terms of like best-selling not mainline games?
Yeah, something like that.
So it sold really, really well. Surprisingly, it actually sold more on the PlayStation 4 than compared to the Switch, which was very nice for all the people out there who think the Switch is going to be the holy bastion savior of the Persona sales.
What they're going to do is, like, they were going to see the superior Switch sales and then spam Atlus's Twitter and be like,
we would never hear the end of it.
Persona 5 on Switch now, hashtag break free Persona.
Like, can you imagine if, like, it was, like, flipped the other way around? Like, the PS4 sales were super weak and everyone bought it on PS4.
Yeah.
We would never hear the end of that story. Other little things about that is interesting. As we were mentioning, it is a full-on sequel. The gameplay is there. It does have the social elements of it. It is way more of like an action RPG. I know this is super derivative and a really bad comparison, but most people just kind of get this. It is way similar in terms of an action RPG like a Kingdom Hearts, whereas like compared to like other sort of action RPGs, and I'm sure there's other sort of games for it, but it's like you have your movements, you have a shortcut menu. There's just a lot of like RPG things like that. I know.
You've also got Persona Fusion.
Yes, there's still fusions. You still have you can rank up. Everyone basically just has one giant social link.
You have the wild card.
Yes, which is nice because I would have thought when I saw that Joker could use his multiple different personas, I was like, okay, well, it's not a real Persona game, so he's only probably going to have a couple of them. I think the final total of personas you can have is like over 80 or something, and all the personas have like their different stuff you can level up, move up, and things like that. So I could talk a lot more about Scramble, but I'm the only one in the room who's actually really played it. It's still not even coming out in America, but I love making bets with everybody in here. So I'm going to start with you, John. When is this game coming out in America? Not when it's getting announced. When is it coming out?
July.
I stole my answer. For anyone in here, if you would like to play along, does anyone have a guess for when this unannounced mythical Persona game is coming out?
I would say like probably the summer. I would say probably be Christmas.
I would be scared to release this game on Christmas because if you had to go up to your Joe Blow average consumer who may even have a hunch about Persona, went, "Hi, sir, would you like to play insert whatever this launch PlayStation 5 game is or Persona 5 spinoff?" It'd be like, yeah, I'm going to have to go with the PlayStation 5 game. But man, this is very off topic, but I got to just pick your brain for this. Will you be sad if next gen gets delayed to next year? Because I thought about this recently, and I'm like, man, I'm not rolling in the money. I'd be very okay if like next gen didn't launch this year because of all the production issues with all the coronavirus stuff, and we just bumped that into next year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a PC, so.
Well, I mean, think about that though. Like those games that are going to come out, their lead SKU is going to be, unless you're Cyberpunk, your lead SKU is consoles. So, like, I'm not really in a hurry for next gen. Like, is anyone here, like, day one automatically, like, let me get that PS5 or next Xbox?
The only thing that's going to make me get a PS5 on launch day is if it's backwards compatible with every PlayStation system.
I'm sorry to break it to you, that will not happen.
I know. But if it does, like, I mean, that's why I'm probably not going to buy it on launch. I'm probably just going to get it when it's, like, when that one exclusive that I absolutely have to have comes out on it, which is probably going to be Persona 6.
I've told Phil Spencer, if he releases a new Xbox and they put out an English version of Shin Megami Tensei 9, I'm in.
Oh, yeah, I'll buy that.
Because think about it, if that ever happened, like, that would be, like, the dumbest thing ever, but just, like, the funniest stupid thing ever. So speaking of games that are actually coming out and actually want your money and actually have a U.S. release date, we are now just a little under half of a month away from Persona 5 Royal coming out. So Royal is basically the Persona 4 Golden of Persona 5. It is an expanded story. We have new characters, new music, new dungeons, new modes, new minigames.
New DLC.
New DLC. We're going to save that for the end. We can't start as cynical as possible. Okay. So Persona 5 Royal is basically just going to be the new de facto way to play it. Because, like, I've heard people, because this came out last year in Japan, I've heard people who have imported it. I don't know anyone, though, who's going to be like, okay, the vanilla version's still better. Because, like, you know how there are people out there who are like, okay.
The only people that are saying that are the people that are mad that they're censoring those, like, one or two lines.
I wish I could, like, hear that one line in a game I'm excited for is getting censored, and that's enough for me to not buy it. Like, can you imagine, like, being, like, that petty?
Like, I can understand being upset about it, but to say that you're just like it's an inferior version of the game, and you're not going to buy it because of that. Yeah.
Like red light district.
Yep.
And Ryuji's getting hit on by those two flamboyant gay men.
Do you know what the gay man in Persona 5, what his name is? He doesn't have an actual name. He has like, you know how they describe like passengers like sort of descriptive names?
I don't know what his name is.
His name is the Beefy Trendsetter.
What?
I hope they can change his dialogue, but please keep that guy's name as the Beefy Trendsetter. That's like such a weird title.
Yeah.
So, Persona 5 originally came out in the West in April of 2017. That was a $60 big boy game, and now at the end of March, it is going to be another $60 title. How do you feel about that? Do you think that was smart of them to keep the price? Do you think they had to?
No.
What would you sell
they
it
probably
at?
maybe they had to, but I still think it's bullcrap.
I mean, as anyone who ever complains about that game being $60.
Okay, if it included all the DLC from base Persona 5 and it didn't have any new DLC on top of that, then I'd say, yeah, $60, sure. But with the fact that they're still charging DLC for it on top of that, I think it shouldn't be any more than, I'd say like at the absolute highest, I would charge $40.
It's a weird one because I think it's very easy to throw it under the bus in terms of complaining about it acting as if it's a complete full retail big boy release, because they're acting in terms of the marketing like this is the ultimate version of Persona 5, you guys got to buy this, but they're not really like selling the marketing on, hey, there's still $60 worth of new DLC at launch. I think a big thing people also need to talk about is don't just complain about the DLC, talk about what's not in the base game. Out of all the things I've listed and talked about, what's the one thing this Persona re-release does not have that every other one does?
I don't know.
New costumes. There's no new costumes. All the new costumes are DLC.
Oh, yeah.
There are no actual just new costumes in the game.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
And even if you do buy the new costume DLC, you still gotta buy Kasumi's costume separately.
Yep. And she is a very pricey gal to have new stuff for. Oh, hey, man, by the way, if you're heading out, if you do want a poster or whatever is left down here, feel free to steal because I have way too many of these. So... I'm still genuinely excited for Persona 5 Royal just because it'll be a good excuse for me to... This has helped actually motivate me to beating Persona 5. I'm really excited to kind of compare it because there are changes along the way. The biggest piece of new story is the new third semester with it, but that's still like hours and hours and hours of gameplay really to get there.
Yeah, what I've heard is that it's basically just regular Persona 5 up until you get to that part.
But it's weird because there are little changes. Like they add a few, like there are some dialogue changes. They did add more voiced lines. Oh, I gotta say, this is really weird going from Scramble, because I'm still playing Persona 5 actually right now, leading up to it for comparison. Persona 5 Scramble, everything is voiced. I forget how many things are not voiced in P5. Like, there's just a lot of just text scenes, and it's like, man, I don't know, like, is it like, am I spoiled to think that a game like this should be completely voiced, or is that just like the norm? Like, what about you?
Well, a lot of people seem to forget that Persona 5, when it came out, it was supposed to release on Valentine's Day of 2017, but then it got delayed to April 4th, and they said, like, the reason, I'm pretty sure the reason was because of dual audio, but Atlus said it was, like, because they wanted to, like, make the translation and as best as they possibly could, and that dual audio was basically just an apology, but... I mean, Persona 5 didn't have the best translation.
Yeah, that was the tough part about that, because
unvoiced dialogue, it's like, yeah, so if it had made its Valentine's Day release, I'd have been okay with it, but the fact that it got delayed and it still had that, it's like, no.
I don't know, it's kind of weird, especially because I feel like before Persona 5, Atlus had very highly regarded translations and stuff. Like, I know their stuff wasn't localized.
But then Sega happened.
No, like, not even like that, but like, I feel like... I don't know, do you think people just got more critical? Because I know people also are rough on the Apocalypse translation and other things like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Apocalypse also had game-breaking bugs.
Like, it's for like RPGs, though, I feel like back in the day,
Yeah.
What do you guys mean by translation exactly? Like, I know what you guys mean by translation, but like translation of like the jokes they put in.
So yeah, that's kind of the tough one. And I'm glad you brought that up, because when you're bringing over a game from Japan into another language, unless you're like a fan translation, you're not just putting it in directly as is. You are localizing it. Most of the time we refer to it as translation just because it's easier, but localization and stuff is a lot more of I'm adapting this into my country. I'm going to like make like because there are jokes in Persona 5 that it wouldn't fly in like in most settings. So a lot of it kind of have to be really worked on like that.
For example, one thing to think of is like, you know, in the English version when they go to Hawaii, you know, they're Japanese students, and I'm just the only one who can speak English, and like listening to them like, oh, can you say this in English as they speak English? It's just like I find that funny, even though there's nothing to do about that one because it's like.
I think it'd be. I enjoy when animes and games actually kind of take that on their head. Like one of my favorite examples of a localization that, for lack of a better word, I'm sure ruins the translation but makes it a better show is the English dub of Shin-Chan. Because the English dub of Shin-Chan is just like basically a YouTube poop in terms of like we're gonna take the animation but we're just gonna make this about like my dad being like a sad like erectile dysfunction alcoholic instead of my dad had to go to the grocery store and he got lobster juice instead because it's like the type of humor is just different. Like if you remember like Shin-Chan was like an Adult Swim show, like it looked like a show that would be on like Fox Box or whatever, but like it had very racy humor.
But well, one thing I like
These voice actors just took a thing. It was this anime that got licensed, and the voice actors, their direction was.
Oh yes, that goes on our show, which they, the funny story behind. Yeah, the license basically was, okay, you have to do an anime adaptation of the show. Here's our animation. The studio wouldn't do it unless they had free reign over the script, and they were like, listen, you make it whatever you want, you just have to show this animation. So then that's why like that anime is actually fucking wild. But no, because going back, like I remember back in the day, for me, until Danganronpa came out, I literally thought NIS America was like the worst company in terms of translating because they had such a bad reputation. Like, do you remember back in the day, like NIS America games like used to just be like straight up known as like the worst localization company.
Well, they still kind of are.
No way. Like by nowadays standards, like I feel like there are a lot more smaller ones.
I don't
worse.
play that many of their games, but I do remember when it was announced that Trails of Cold Steel 3 was going to get translated by NES. So many people.
That's a tough one because that's like the equivalent of like saying like, hey, here is a very beloved franchise. Like that would be the equivalent of if Persona 6 gets announced, dude, and Sony is doing it instead of Atlus. Even if the quality was there, because you're ripping something out from someone's arms who are doing it and now someone else has to make it, doesn't matter whose hands it's in, people are going to be critical just because it's not the original people who helped bring it out in the West. Mm-hmm. But I've not played Trails of Cold Steel 3, so I'm not actually sure how the translation was.
I also still see a lot of people say that they don't like Danganronpa's official translation, that they prefer to play the PSP patched version.
Craziness. Danganronpa team is great.
I think Danganronpa has a great translation.
I'm more in it for the voice cast. That voice cast, you can tell, had fun with that game.
Oh, yeah.
So, as you can tell, we're all very excited about Persona 5 Royal, and definitely not salty because neither one of us are playing the review code right now. Yeah. So, for you, as a content creator, as we've not really talked about this, what is your plan with Royal?
Well, my original plan was, if I got it early enough, that I was just going to do, like, a full Let's Play of it, and then just upload the whole thing as like a 200-hour video.
Like one actual audio file, not audio, one video, just that, like no cuts.
Yeah,
Jesus.
But I mean, I'm not going to be able to finish it now. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably just get as far as I can, and then once I'm done with it, I'll do a video like, should you buy Persona 5 Royal or Persona 5 Royal preview, and in between, like while I'm playing it. Before I upload that video, I'll probably just stream it. I
gotta be real though. I'm kind of, I actually am glad we're not getting it till it comes out. Like so.
Well, is it when it comes out, or because you said
we're gonna get it at the end of the month? End of the month. I'm sure we'll probably get it, if not day of, like a day or two before. But considering how long the game is, that really doesn't matter at that point. Like neither one of us are gonna beat it in 2 days. So like my thing about it was I was actually stressing, dude. Like I was like working through TMS. I had just gotten Persona 5 Scramble. I'm still kind of doing some comparison like research for vanilla P5. I was like, man, I am not ready to like play through Royal like at the same time because like there were other games going on and stuff for it. So for me personally, I'm fine with it, especially because like I do this podcast weekly. I actually I don't know how like you and your audience were, but I loved when Tokyo Mirage Sessions came out and just going like every week, seeing people talk about it, posting about our like updates on Twitter. It was just fun. Like, hey, how far are you in the game? So I like that a lot more because you've never reviewed like a big RPG early.
No.
Like, it's kind of a lonesome experience. Like, for me, I remember my biggest review experience I thought was so lonely, and I wish I could have talked to other people before it, was I reviewed Animal Crossing New Leaf. I had it 2 months before release. Imagine having a game like Animal Crossing, and you can only play it by yourself, and you can't really talk to people about it because you'd be breaking embargo. So you're just like, I guess I made a cute house today. Can only talk to my villagers about it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. Like in terms of us having reviews up with all the other companies, like it'd be fun if we could, but I think in the long run for like our audience, it'll be more enjoyable for us all to have an active conversation with it because like the review embargo is probably not going to drop until like a week or two beforehand. So even if we had it, we couldn't even talk about it really.
Yeah.
Although I'll say this, I was cheeky enough that if I did get a review code and we did have our plain old panned as possible, and instead of people sleeping, we actually had like a big old packed room, I was going to bring a PS4 version of it and just let everyone and just record it and post it and be like, this is the world's largest embargo break. Because it wouldn't matter. Like, the game's out in Japan. Like, it wouldn't matter if people played it, and it'd be just really funny to just be like, all right, let's see how many embargoes we can break at once. So that's it in terms of like Persona titles. Our next one we're going to talk about is going to be a lot shorter depending on how much of a Vanillaware stan you are, John. What is your history with Vanillaware?
I have not played any of their games.
You are a disgusting man. I want you to know that. I'm now judging you very hard. You've never played Muramasa.
Nope.
You've never played Dragon's Crown.
Nope.
You've never played Odin's Sphere.
No.
Why? They're so good, and they're Atlus games. Like, how do you have a copy of Rule of Rose, but you never thought about tracking down a copy of Odin's Spear?
Because I found Rule of Rose for $2.
Man, that is
If I get a
insane
copy of
to
Odin's
me.
Spear for $2, I'll buy it.
You probably could, depending on the version you're looking for. So, is it just like their art style hasn't really appealed to you, or what is it about Vanillaware games that just never really drew you in?
I mean, well, because most of their games are side-scrollers, but when I'm playing on a home console, I don't really think I want to play side-scroller. That's more if I'm playing it in portable.
That's interesting. So, so you probably grew up more in like, okay, when I'm playing on like when I'm playing like a big presentation, like you wouldn't play something like Final Fantasy 15 on like a handheld if it was available.
Yeah. Like, I grew up playing 3D platformers on the GameCube.
That's interesting. So, like, for me, I'm in a weird camp of I've known about Vanillaware. I think I started with Dragon's Crown, I guess. I played Odin's Sphere a little bit on PS2, but I never owned it. I was really cheap with a lot of my games, but when they were on the Vita, like, that was their renaissance. Because, like, basically their big thing was this. Odin's Sphere was kind of popular, not super, super big. And then Muramasa was their big Wii game. That was their big make it or break it. We've got to make this game come out because this game called Dragon's Crown I've been working on since the Dreamcast is taking 9 million years. Let's put it out. And then that didn't really do anything. And then they ported Muramasa out to the Vita, did pretty okay, and then Dragon's Crown came out. Like, I don't know how big into the scene you were, but when Dragon's Crown came out, that was a huge release.
I mean, I remember there was controversy over the sorceress's design.
Oh my god. Yeah, if you guys ever want to see great proportions in women, Dragon's Crown has really, really great stuff of the witch is about as thick as a broomstick, and she has tits the size of 3 watermelons duct taped together. And what is it? The warrior has just got. If you ever see like those bodybuilder chicks, like but the really like Arnold Schwarzenegger out like bodybuilder chicks,
the Amazon.
Like, dude, she's like the warrior in Dragon's Crown makes the Amazonians say "Step on me, daddy." That's how thick she looks. She is a big girl.
Yeah.
So like, but I find it so funny. Like, their proportions, they got a lot of crap for that. But then, do you remember the Archer? The Archer just looks like a normal anime girl. Her proportions are normal. She just wears a hood. You don't see her tits at all. There's not even cleavage.
Well, I mean, you know why they did that? Because they knew it would get controversy and which would bring attention to their
100% not. Vanillaware has never cared. Like, if Vanillaware was more popular, 13 Sentinels would get a lot of shit because, like, have you seen all the stuff, like, in the art that's been for it? So for anyone who doesn't know, 13 Sentinels is basically the equivalent of Evangelion as a tower defense visual novel. It stars 13 Japanese high schoolers, involves lots of time travel, them getting in mechas, and it is still kind of told in a 2D visual novel style, but there are tower defense gameplay segments. It's very heady. It's like very like kind of deep, and like I could not imagine this game being very, very popular at all in America. But boy, when this does come out, if it ever does, I think if it's PS4 only, it's going to bomb really hard. And if it doesn't come out on PS5 as a launch title with just a little bit better graphics, I think that's about the only chance this game has at making it. But like let's say this comes out, because you're now a different person than when their last game released.
Yeah.
Would you pick this up in terms of my users want me to talk about this as an Atlus game, or do you think you'd still wait for a sale or something? Let's say review codes are out. No review code has a chance.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, that's crazy. Is it just because it's so like Japanese and kind of weird or out there? Like, what's turning you off from 13 Sentinels?
I guess the graphics, like, because it still looks like all of Vanillaware's other games. I mean, now maybe if it was on PC, then I'd probably play, because I'll play anything on PC.
That's true. You've admitted publicly that you play H visual novels, so
Yeah.
you've already scrapped the bottom of the barrel. All right, so we'll go on to the next one because we're basically wrapping up at this point. Our next game has about as much information as my Tinder profile right now. Shin Megami Tensei 5. Is anyone in here aware of what Shin Megami Tensei 5 is? That's good because there's not a lot of info about it either. So this was announced as a Nintendo Switch exclusive in 2017 during the January presentation, right? That was part of their trailers.
The one that caused their stocks to plummet.
Yes, because remember when that January presentation, that did not make the Switch look better.
Yeah.
That presentation had two things going for it. It comes out in 2 months, and Zelda looks great. Because if you remember, how many games did the Switch launch with?
Like
5.
Yeah, 5.
I bought every one of them. Bomberman, 1-2 Switch, Zelda, Just Dance, and Skylanders. Oh my god, it was a different time, but the Switch blew up. It got really popular. This is going to be worked on by the team who made the last Shin Megami Tensei, SMT4, and Apocalypse. And we don't know a lot outside of it's being made with Unreal Engine. I like to make jokes about it now being the Fortnite of SMT.
Yeah, it's been more than 2 years since we last got any info on it.
Technically, you can say we got info on it 2 months ago. Because, well, on New Year's,
Kinda.
when they said an update is coming this year.
Yeah,
that counts as an update.
Didn't they say that last year, too?
No, they actually didn't comment on it last year. That was what it was a big deal of them commenting because all the Western crybabies can't wait any longer.
Yeah.
I'm in a weird game. I know you won it like last year. For me personally, I feel like Atlus has been putting out so many games. I don't feel like we're in a hurry to get it because I feel like the longer the game's being worked on, like the game's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, but the amount of hype that it's going to have to live up to.
I think if I was that development team, I'd be very nervous because not only is there a lot of hype, they now are going to have all the Switch bandwagoners who are going to be going into this as this is a Nintendo Switch exclusive. This is a first-party IP. This is going to be like Nintendo promoted, like a big deal. Like unless this game has like a big downgrade, which I highly doubt it will, like this is going to... Like, there is a chance that whatever year this comes out, which is not 2020, there's no way this game is coming out this year, even in Japan. Like, when this comes out, like, this is, like, going to be, like, as big of a deal as a Bayonetta 3, I feel like. I don't think it's, like, Luigi's Mansion level big, but I think it's, like, Bayonetta 3 levels.
Going back to the whole Persona 5 on Switch thing, I think part of the reason they, like, despite demand, they won't release P5 on Switch is because Atlus doesn't want it to cannibalize the sales of SMT5. And they want to market it like, hey, if you like Persona 5, but you want Persona 5 on Switch, then maybe you should try this game.
Yeah, and like honestly, like if they make the game have an interesting enough visual aesthetic and give it a cool story and whatnot, I think it'll be an easy sell. You make a trailer, show off the game, have it look cool, and be like, hey, this is from the studio who makes the Persona games, guys. Come play this.
Yeah.
Like all it took for SMT4 to be remotely popular in the West. I think I know SMT4 didn't do financially crazy well, but like it was at least it released at a time of like people were interested who normally wouldn't touch SMT games.
And it was, well, I mean, it was also one of the first JRPGs on the 3DS.
No, not true. Because at that point, we'd had a couple. Like, the first early ones were Devil Survivor.
Well, yeah.
But no, the thing I was thinking about it with was going into it, I actually think, I always forget about this, the way SMT4 was marketed from an Atlus perspective, it was like, hey guys, Persona 4 Golden came out last year, and you guys fucking loved it. This is the 3DS one of like, I think that was the last Atlus game that released. It was Persona 4 Golden in the fall of 2012, and then summer 2013 was SMT4.
Well, there was also Soul Hackers.
True, but that one was a lot smaller of a release. Like, that one isn't even really a remake.
Yeah, that game's actually pretty expensive now.
Which is crazy, because like, for the longest time, it was like $20, right?
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the shelf at GameStop for 10, and now it's like 70.
Yeah. So SMT5, it's very nebulous. We don't have a lot of information for it, but I'm personally excited for it, and I'm more than capable of waiting. I'm one of those people, like, I feel like I'm the opposite of you, John, where, like, I'm excited about so many games at all different times that I'm never like, oh my god, this game's super... Like, the farthest out game right now that I'm excited for, Jesus. I'm not even shitting you. I think it's legitimately, in terms of what's announced and we know is a real thing, Resident Evil 3. I would say 13 Sentinels, but 13 Sentinels doesn't even have a date. So it'd be like a game that comes out in less than a month. Like, what about you? Like, what's the next game you're like, I have to buy this, and it's not Persona 5 Royal?
I don't actually know, because most of the games, I'm not exactly the wealthiest person, so most of the games I just plan to get them when they're on sale, like Doom Eternal, Resident Evil 3.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna skip over Project Refantasy because there's about as much information for that as there is behind SMT5. I just want to say thank you guys for coming, even if you guys are just snoozing away. I very much enjoyed talking to you guys. John, thank you for sitting up here and yawning with me.
You're welcome.
This was much easier, believe it or not, than me recording a podcast from my house and having to edit it, so all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for waiting. I'm assuming you're doing your panel next?
It starts at 1:30.
Oh, no. Wait, hold on. What time is it now? Oh, okay, perfect. 1 o'clock. All right. My plan was to be done by 1. I was worried.
We were supposed to start at noon.
That's true. We were a beefy panel. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming out, and I hope you enjoy whatever is left of this not Naka Kon. I don't know what we're really calling this, because...
DashCon 2020.
DashCon 2020.
DashCon 2020,
Yeah.
Okay.
No, staff.
Oh, that's
Staff.
much better than Dash. I was like, boy, I don't know why you'd want to call it that. Oh, no, you woke up. I was going to take a picture of you. She was so comfy. Oh, yeah, StaffCon 2020 sounds much better.
That's kind of something we never speak to get over.
There's also some people calling it Corona Con.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's a good one.
CoronaCon.
BoxCon, which was our April Fool's
Oh my god, this
a
is
couple years ago.
The guy setting up the room definitely did call a BoxCon for it. John, if people out here are very lonely and need to follow us on social media, where can people find us on social media?
You can find me on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/c/NYARLY. And you can also follow me on Twitter. That's @crawling_NYARLY.
So if you guys are even more bored, you can follow our podcast. We do stuff like this every week, talking about Atlus games, Persona, Shin Megami Tensei. It's called Shin Megami Tensei Network. We have a Facebook group you can find by going to facebook.com/groups/SMT Network. We're on Twitter @SMT Network. We have a YouTube channel as well, which you can find just under my name of Spencer Presley. We're on iTunes, and yeah, that's about it. Enjoy the rest of Staff, Box, April Fools, CoronaCon. We will see you guys later.